is now a retelling of the anime Call of the Night. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on the channel. Have fun watching. After rejecting a classmate's love confession, 14-year-old Koyamori becomes increasingly depressed. Unable to sleep at night, he takes to wandering the streets at night. He meets with a beautiful girl named Nizuna, who identifies his nighttime restlessness as lack of satisfaction with life and decides to help him find it again. Taking him to her apartment to sleep, she insists they share a bed. Nervous, Yamori pretends to be deeply asleep. Nizuna reveals herself as a vampire and sucks his blood, finding him to be unusually tasty. Yamori confronts her, but she assures him he will not become a vampire, as the only way for a human to become a vampire is to fall in love with a vampire and then have that vampire bite them. This confession embarrasses her, so she drinks a beer. Yamori is relieved, but then disappointed once again. Unable to face returning to normal life and believing he has found something to finally excite him, he asks to spend more time with Nizuna with the goal of falling in love so he can become a vampire as well. While reluctant, Nizuna agrees to spend more nights together in exchange for his blood, and if he happens to fall in love with her, so be it. Nizuna once again embarrasses Yamori when she explains her blood drinkage is basically the same as having sex. However, Yamori reiterates his desire to become a vampire. He then embarrasses Nizuna when he offers some of his blood. The next night, Yamori becomes jealous when he discovers from Nizuna that she does drink blood from random people. As such, he offers to exchange their contact information, but she tells him she does not have a phone. However, she takes him to her apartment, where she shows him her vintage brick phone. Afterwards, she gets ready for sleep, and invites a nervous Yamori to join her. He initially refuses to let her drink his blood, but he lets her after she admits that she had actually been looking for him that night. The next night, he gives Nizuna a wrist receiver to communicate with him, who has the transmitter. Yamori then tells her from afar that they act like a couple, embarrassing her. In his school's rooftop, he calls her Nizuna-chan, and formally asks her be his friend. Later that night, while asking himself where Nizuna might be, the other transmitter in his wrist receives a signal, just as another girl, who has the other receiver in her wrist, appears beside him. Akira tells Yamori about how she waited for him to contact her, but he never did. Nevertheless, she tells him that she is happy to see him. Yamori then recalls how Akira befriended him. The next day, Nizuna teases him about leaving to see another girl, but his reaction confirms her suspicion. After leaving, Yamori meets with Akira, but Nizuna appears and teases them. Nizuna then proves to Akira that their relationship is merely physical when she drinks his blood in front of her. In a cafe, Yamori tells Akira that he allows Nizuna to drink his blood due to his dissatisfaction with school. She tells him that she feels the same, and asks him to return to school with her. After Nizuna introduces herself, both her and Yamori leave. After Yamori asks Nizuna if she is angry, she leaves upset. Yamori trips on some stairs and then calls Nizuna, apologizing for seeing Akira in secret. However, Nizuna appears and tells him that she was worried they would see each other less if he returned to school. Yamori tells her that he was unable to tell Akira that he cannot return to school due to his dream. A relieved Nizuna then drinks from the wound in his mouth, before jumping away, leaving him speechless. While he ponders about what happened previously, and after witnessing a couple kissing nearby, Yamori assumes that he has already fallen in love with Nizuna. After she finds him, Yamori eagerly lets her drink his blood, but after he does not transform, Nizuna explains that he is confusing love with lust. After they both reveal it was their first kiss, Nizuna believes kissing is something friends do. The next night, Yamori invites Akira to hang out at Nizuna's apartment. There, they play video games, as Nizuna offers kisses to whoever can beat her. A flustered Akira discovers of Nizuna and Yamori's kiss, and tries to dissuade him from falling in love with a vampire. However, Nizuna explains that Yamori does not like her yet. After they play a dating sim, they lie down to sleep, despite Akira feeling weird with all of them sleeping in the same bed. After Nizuna explains their mutually beneficial relationship to Akira, Yamori finally tells her of how he will become a vampire if he falls in love with Nizuna. After Nizuna falls asleep, Akira tells Yamori that they can still be friends even if he becomes a vampire, also saying she will not give up in trying to make him return to school. Nizuna ends up in a bathhouse, where she instructs the clerk to alert her if her wrist receiver begins beeping. She bolts out of the bath when it does, meeting Yamori outside wearing nothing but a long jacket. After he has taken a bath himself, Yamori begins experiencing new feelings due to Nizuna's new look, which she teases him about. After she drinks his blood, they decide to rest, but unbeknownst to Yamori, they enter a love hotel. There, Nizuna explains that she can make an idea about what a person is thinking due to the taste of their blood, saying that she teases Yamori's emotions to get more taste. After leaving, Yamori gets jealous when Nizuna spots a person from which she has drunk blood before, but she says he is the only one at the moment. They then head to her apartment, where Nizuna reveals she runs a home massage parlor. She massages Yamori free of charge, but focuses in the more relaxing pressure points of his body, before trying to drink his blood. However, they are interrupted by the arrival of a client. Yamori is forced to greet her, and after he finds Nazuna playing in her room, she promises to give him a kiss as a reward for attending her in her place. Kayasumi Shirakawa recalls the first night she took Nazuna's massage services. Back in the present, Yamori undertakes her massage. After learning his age, Kayasumi asks him his motivations, and he explains he got fed up with school and just wants to enjoy his nights. Kayasumi then suddenly realizes how she is genuinely unhappy at her work and breaks down crying. A worried Yamori then refuses to let her answer a call from her boss, and to make her feel a near-death experience thrill, he has Nazuna throw her from her window, saving her just in time. Yamori apologizes for the scare and tells Kayasumi his and Nazuna's secret, saying he wants to become a vampire. He then takes her to walk down the middle of the street, from which she gets a sense of freedom. She thanks Yamori for alleviating some of her stress and encourages him to achieve his goal. However, Yamori tells her he will turn her into a vampire as well, delighting Kayasumi and embarrassing Nazuna. Sometime later, they attend a night pool resort, where Yamori angrily pulls Nazuna away from two guys hitting on her. Sensing his jealousy, Nazuna flies him to another pool, where they enjoy themselves and she drinks his blood. After running into Kayasumi, Yamori is approached by a blonde, slender woman who flirtatiously talks and teases him. After she tells him she is bored with her recent life, Yamori tries to console her by saying they are the same. She then jumps and embraces him, ready to suck his blood. However, Nazuna saves him just in time, as she explains she should just drink all of his blood and kill him. However, another vampire captures him and takes him atop a building, where three other vampires are. They introduce themselves as Nico Hirata, Midori Kohakobi, Hatsuka Suzashiro, and Kabura Honda, as Nico tells him to choose amongst them, saying his choice will make him fall in love and convert him. However, he rejects all their advances in favor of Nazuna. Meanwhile, Sari Kikyo, the blonde vampire, tells Nazuna to stop playing with Yamori if she does not intend to mate with him, but she says she actually wants to, stunning her. Yamori keeps spurning the vampires, finally yelling that it will be Nazuna who conquers him, just as she arrives. Seeing her newfound interest to leave descendants, the girls accept Yamori, who says he will fall in love with Nazuna, no matter how long it takes. The vampires explain to Yamori that a human has exactly 1 year to become a vampire after they first get their blood sucked. Nazuna brushes it off, and repays Yamori the kiss he was promised. Yamori briefs Akira about his predicament, and she explains that he will probably be killed after the year passes. Back home, Akira runs into a drunk Mahiro Seki, an old friend, who exclaims he is in love with a woman with whom he hangs out at night. Yamori runs into Kikyo, who asks how things are going with Nazuna. He asks what falling in love feels like, so she tries to help him. She advises him to go on a date, but Nazuna refuses, finally agreeing after he shuts off her game. However, she realizes later on the date that Kikyo influenced him and leaves, disappointed. While a depressed Yamori reflects on his room, Nazuna finds his date plan and returns to his house, where she takes him on a flight, drinking his blood mid-air. Later on, Yamori runs into Seki hanging out with his friends. He then hangs out with him and Akira at the park, inadvertently encouraging him after expressing his own friendship with Nazuna. Sometime later, Nazuna holds hands with Yamori so they will not get separated again, just as Seki passes with his new girlfriend. Yamori runs into Kikyo, but Nazuna violently stops her. Nazuna then exclaims that Kikyo herself condemned friendships between humans and vampires. Later, Yamori finds Kikyo again, so they go to a karaoke bar, where Kikyo explains how harsh people can be, which Yamori understands. Just then, one of her admirers begins knocking at the door. Yamori opposes to her killing him, but she explains that her antics are not wrong if his death does not affect him. She attacks, but Yamori gets in her way, and escapes with him. Yamori deduces Akihito Akiyama likes Kikyo, and he recalls how they met after she found him drunk on the street. Kikyo arrives, and she goes to kill Akiyama and Yamori for interfering, but Nazuna stops her from above. Akiyama reveals they used to be friends, but he accidentally fell in love with her, which collided with her hatred for romance. Kikyo confirms this, and agrees to never see Akiyama again. However, she breaks down crying, exclaiming she had fun being his friend, and wants to continue. Akiyama then offers to become her progeny, to which Kikyo agrees, converting him. They all go to the karaoke to celebrate, with Nazuna exclaiming she and Yamori can take their time. Midori needs to find someone to work a shift at the vampire-themed Maid cafe where she works who will not upstage her, and ends up convincing Nazuna to do the job while she is out on another stroll with Ko. Ko decides to stay at the cafe as a customer, and is served by another waitress named Arisa, who tells him about her own love of maid cafes. As Midori plans to post photos for the cafe's social media, she notices several creep shots of Arisa uploaded to the same folder, and asks Ko to help her find the culprit. Ko and Nozuna spend some time surveying the scene, trying to figure out how the voyeur could achieve the angles featured in the photos. Suddenly, Ko has an epiphany, and sets up a sting with Midori later that night, catching the real culprit in the act, who turns out to be Arisa herself. Arisa admits to taking risque photos of herself out of a narcissistic desire for recognition after losing the top maid spot to Midori. Arisa then plans to quit the cafe, but Midori forgives her, saying that all the cafe maids are working there out of some desire for recognition themselves. Nozuna uses the extra money earned from working at the cafe to upgrade the furniture in her own place, and asks Ko to find some new clients for her sleeping business. Ko sees a tired woman smoking on the bridge and tries to strike up a chat with her. She then takes him to a cafe where he tries to sell her on Nozuna's business, but she half-jokingly threatens to inform the police that his boss is violating Japanese child labor laws. The woman introduces herself as Anko Ogisu, a private detective, and she tries to get information from him on Akihito, showing Ko a photo of the man who was involved with Seri the other day. Ko lies about not knowing him, and after a tense moment, Anko lets him slide. Anko pays for the coffee and leaves, letting Ko take the change, which she spends on beer for Nozuna. However, he is unaware that Anko is stalking him from afar. Later that night, Ko meets up with Mahiru and Akira to investigate the 7 mysteries of their school. Most of them are either non-existent or have mundane explanations, but while checking a haunted classroom, they stumble upon an old man who pounces on Akira and tries to drink her blood. Ko manages to fight him off long enough for the 3 kids to escape, but the man follows them into the hallway. At the other end, Anko shows up and lets him die as a human, letting him turn to ash as the morning sun shines through the windows of the hallway. Ko asks why she could not let him perish in peace, and Anko chastises Ko for being naive about vampires. Ko, shaken by the incident of the previous night, reconsiders becoming a vampire. Nozuna, noticing Ko's discomfort, assures him that the starved vampire at the school was not a typical case. Ko speaks to Mahiru about the previous night, and is asked why he wishes to become a vampire and advised to consider if it is a good idea. Nozuna, visiting Ko's apartment, tells him that she has been a vampire for a long time, and that it is not as exciting as it may seem. Unsure what to do, Ko meets with Ugisu seeking counsel. Ugisu says she is opposed to Ko becoming a vampire, as she believes that vampires are a threat to humanity, and presents him with an ultimatum, demanding that he promise to abandon his hope of becoming a vampire, at which point she will protect him from the vampires and tell him how to kill them. Ko staunchly refuses to comply with Ugisu's demands, insisting that not all vampires are bad. At this, Ugisu calls the police and reports Ko for breaking curfew. Ko flees the area before the police arrive and hides at a playground, where he is found by Hatsuka. Hatsuka takes Ko to his place and lets Ko sit in a chair while Hatsuka takes a shower. When Hatsuka asks Ko for a towel, Ko discovers that Hatsuka is actually male. Meanwhile, Nozuna thinks that Ko does not want to become a vampire anymore, and asks Nico and the other vampires to let him live. Nico is furious that Nozuna wants to let him break their deal, and smashes the table, then threatens to kill Ko herself. Back at Hatsuka's place, Ko begins second-guessing himself as he recounts his encounter with Anko and the old male vampire that she killed. Hatsuka offers to turn Ko into a vampire himself after seeing a picture of the smashed table, saying it would be the quickest way to ensure both Nozuna and Ko's safety. Though Ko feels a slight attraction to Hatsuka, he declines, saying that he wants to be turned by Nozuna, even though there might be consequences for them both. Ko rushes to the rooftop where he met the other vampires before, with Nico trying to dissuade him from finding Nozuna, stating that she left and will not talk to him. Ko runs away and decides to look for Nozuna on his own after angrily telling Nico to shut up. Ko finally reunites with her at the vending machine where they first met. Nozuna quietly promises to become a vampire worth falling in love for, and kisses him. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel because it is very important for the development of the channel.